Imagine a February night, somewhere on a Scandinavian hillside in the 1700s. The temperature outside is minus 38 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside a structure built from nothing but bog dirt, stacked stone, and living grass, a mother is asleep. Her children pressed against her, breathing steady. The last fire went out 6 hours ago. The walls are still radiating heat. Nobody is in danger tonight. Now, imagine your home. Same temperature outside, same power outage. Your modern, code-compliant house, the one that cost you 30 years of mortgage payments, drops to dangerous temperatures within hours. Your family huddles under every blanket you own, hoping the grid comes back before the situation becomes life-threatening. Because your home was not engineered to keep you alive without power. It was engineered to keep you connected to a power source every hour of every day. If what you just heard made something shift in your thinking, subscribe to this channel right now before we go any further. Everything you are about to watch is the argument the modern building and energy industry has spent decades making sure you never encountered. That mother in the 1700s had no spray foam insulation, no vapor barrier, no programmable thermostat. She had a peat house, walls cut from compressed bog material 3 feet thick, a living sod roof 2 feet deep, tiny windows barely larger than a sheet of paper, and a thermal system so effective that when modern scientists tested a reconstructed version in 2007, they could not beat it with contemporary building technology. Here is what the University of Iceland found: 2 structures of equal size. One, a reconstructed peat house built using traditional methods. One, a modern insulated home built to current standards with high-performance insulation, vapor barriers, and energy-efficient windows. Both heated to the same temperature. Then, all heat sources were cut simultaneously. Outside temperature, minus 15 degrees Celsius. The modern home dropped to freezing in 9 hours. The peat house, after 48 hours without a single flame, was still 56 degrees inside. After 4 full days with no heat source, it was still 48 degrees. Survivable, stable. The modern structure beside it had long since become uninhabitable. 4 days, no heat, still 48 degrees inside. A structure built from bog material by landless Scandinavian peasants who owned nothing outlasted a modern building constructed to current code by 3.5 days. That is not a curiosity. That is evidence of a decision that was made about how to build homes. And that decision was not made in your interest. The reason the peat house performed the way it did comes down to thermal mass, not a medieval secret, not lost technology, a physical property that engineers understand completely, and that the modern building industry chose to deprioritize for reasons that become very clear when you follow the money. Thermal mass is the ability of a dense material to absorb heat slowly and release it even more slowly. Peat, stacked 3 feet thick, absorbs heat from a fire the way a battery absorbs a charge. When you heat a peat house, you are not warming the air, you are charging the walls. Once those walls are charged, they radiate stored heat back into the living space continuously. Not for hours, but for days, regardless of what the temperature outside is doing. A modern wall, by contrast, is thin, lightweight, and stores almost nothing. It slows heat loss through insulation, but the moment your heating system stops, the warmth in the air bleeds out, through gaps, through joints, and especially through large windows. There is no reserve, no stored energy in the structure itself. The house depends entirely on continuous mechanical input to remain livable. Researchers testing traditional peat houses in the Faroe Islands found walls still warm to the touch 72 hours after the last fire, keeping interior temperatures significantly above outside air with zero energy input. The sod roof contributed equally to that performance. 2 feet of compressed living soil, absorbing rising heat and radiating it back down into the living space for hours after the fire died. Researchers studying Icelandic turf houses found sod roofs contributing up to 30% of the structure's total thermal retention. The roof was not decoration. It was an active component of a complete passive heating system. After the Second World War, the building industry restructured itself around one priority: speed. Factory-produced lumber, drywall, fiberglass insulation, materials that could be assembled quickly by unskilled labor. Entire neighborhoods built in weeks. Peat construction required local materials, generational knowledge, and skilled hands. You could not produce peat blocks in a factory. You could not ship them across a continent. Every structure demanded people who understood the local bog, knew how to cut and dry the material correctly, and had built with it before. That knowledge could not be industrialized. So the industry chose the method that could be scaled and standardized. And the knowledge of how to build a structure that kept families alive through Arctic winters without external energy input died within a single generation. Not because peat construction stopped working, because it could not generate the supply chain and labor model the post-war building boom required. This is the moment in this video where this channel asks you to subscribe. Because what you are watching is the argument this channel exists to make consistently and at scale. Every traditional system replaced by a modern profitable alternative deserves this same examination. Subscribe now so you are present when the next one is uncovered. The energy industry completed the equation. A family living in a peat house with 3-foot walls and a sod roof used minimal fuel. A small fire burning a few hours charges the thermal system for days. That household generates almost no energy revenue. A family living in a lightweight stick-framed house with no thermal mass needs continuous energy input every hour of every day for as long as they occupy the structure. That household generates permanent, predictable revenue. A passive survival system that required almost no purchased energy was commercially inconvenient. It was replaced with an energy-dependent structure. And the transition was presented as modernization. Your heating bill reflects the profit margin built into that transition. Your vulnerability during a winter power outage is the direct engineering consequence of a building system optimized for energy dependency rather than thermal resilience. What makes this argument more than opinion is the scientific record. Researchers testing 18th century peat structures with modern diagnostic equipment found thermal and air retention performance comparable to or exceeding contemporary high-efficiency building standards. That research exists. It was published. The building industry noted it and continued constructing the same energy-dependent structures because the performance data was never the deciding factor. The commercial model was always the deciding factor. The next winter storm that disrupts your power supply is not simply a weather event. It is a stress test of a building system designed around the assumption that external energy will always be available. When that assumption fails, the structure fails with it. Not because the physics of keeping a building warm changed, but because the commercial priorities of the industry that built your home never included thermal independence as a design goal. The peat house principle has not been invalidated by modern science. It has been confirmed by it. The thermal mass argument, the sod roof humidity system, the minimal opening philosophy. Every element of that traditional building approach has been studied with contemporary equipment and found to perform. The knowledge was not lost because it stopped working. It was displaced because it was incompatible with a building economy that needed energy-dependent customers. Here's the honest question this video ends with. Not the prepared answer, the real one. If your power went out tonight and outside temperatures dropped below zero and stayed there for 4 days, no grid restoration, no option to leave, no backup system, how many hours before your home became genuinely dangerous for the people inside it? 6 hours? 12 hours? Less than 6? Drop that number in the comments right now, because the gap between what people believe their home can do and what it actually does when the grid fails is the gap this channel exists to close. Those answers shape which survival knowledge this channel uncovers next. The peat house is one answer to one question most people have never thought to ask. What did the modern building industry replace, and did that replacement serve the families living inside those structures or the industries supplying energy to them indefinitely? That question extends beyond building. It applies to every traditional system: food preservation, farming, medicine, survival infrastructure that the modern industrial economy classified as primitive and replaced with something profitable and counted on you never examining closely. Every one of those replacements has a paper trail. Every one of them has a performance gap the industry that made the replacement has no commercial interest in discussing. This channel discusses them with evidence, with the science the industries involved buried, and with the specific question they're most afraid of being asked at scale. Did the replacement actually serve you, or did it serve them? That question has more answers than one video can hold. Stay subscribed. What is coming next on this channel will make what you just watched feel like the surface of something much larger. The people who subscribed right now will be there when it surfaces. Do not leave without subscribing. This is the channel those industries are counting on you never finding. The peat house kept families alive through conditions that expose everything fragile about the system that replaced it. Now you have watched the comparison. The question is what you do with it. See you in our next video. Stay tuned in.